They have authority to regulate point source discharges. They do not have that great of authority to regulate agricultural, non-point sources, but EPA has decided to clean up the Chesapeake Bay. If states don't get a hold of their non-point source pollution, they're going to start cracking down on the point source pollution. And a group of folks, farmers groups, sued on that and lost. The Middle District judge said that EPA was acting reasonably and their modeling was reasonable. That's been appealed to the Third Circuit. Environmentalists in the Mississippi watershed were just successful, at least at the district court level, in getting a judge to order EPA to conduct an analysis of whether in the Mississippi watershed, EPA should issue numeric criteria for nitrogen or nutrient pollution that would then apply to all of the states in the watershed. So the takeaway from this litigation as it relates to biomass-based renewables is that it really does create an opportunity for biomass, especially perennial biomass, to be part of state strategies to address this litigation. Because if this litigation is ultimately successful, which I think it will be, it depends on whether a Democrat wins the next presidential election, because this could all be pulled back. I think that agriculture will see them playing a much larger role pursuant to this litigation in mitigating nutrient pollution.
You went so fast, can I just ask?
Yeah.
You said that if they can't get their non-point source under control, they're going to come down to the point source.
Yeah.
The point source has been dealt with. Or are you saying because agriculture's been exempt from the point source?
Agriculture is not exempt. States are supposed to deal with non-point sources. Arguably, stormwater discharges and other sort of sewage treatment plant discharges, EPA would have room to lower their permit levels as well. So point sources, we can't say that they've been decided, that they're settled. EPA could, because of the degradation in the watershed, go back and reassess point source contributions and say, okay, if ag isn't going to lower over here, we're going to do it here.
And that's MS4 permit.
That's NPDES permits, yeah. So that's under the NPDES program of the Clean Water Act. So I guess with the little time left, I'll just leave concluding thoughts for maybe some questions that you have. But I think the takeaway is that all of this litigation, if you deal in biomass-based energy, or even on the carbon accounting side for all renewable energy, it's important to watch this litigation and sort of see where it's going and maybe hopefully influence that. And I think the success of California will be key, and also perhaps the midterm elections to see if EPA cannot work under the existing statutes that it has, Congress is going to have to amend them, and we know how easy that is in this sort of political climate. So with that, thank you.
I have a couple questions. Thank you. The first one was, when you refer to natural gas being exempt from environmental legislation, are you referring specifically to like the quote-unquote Halliburton loophole, Halliburton loophole, or is there anything else that they are exempt from, or is it just the water impacts? Because
No, it's everything.
it's everything.
This Halliburton loophole is what the section in the Energy Policy Act
Right,
of
right,
2005 that exempts them from the Safe Drinking Water Act,
Right.
TSCA, all.
NEPA too? That only applies on federal land, and that hasn't really come up too much so far in the development of gas, but would that also be exempt if,
And
if
for
there's,
those that don't know the reason for the exemption, can you guys just look up on the Halliburton?
Yeah. I think the reason for the exemption was sort of trade-offs that the administration was getting from Democratic members of Congress to incentivize other sort of forms of renewable energy. The trade-off is that natural gas fracking and the new technologies they had, which were primarily supported by, I think, commercially by Halliburton, would be, the fracking fluids would be exempt
Right.
from all of the federal environmental laws. And my understanding is too that when this occurs on federal land, this is something that the Bureau of Land Management, for example, does not apply those as well.
wow, yeah, so that's pretty far-reaching. And the other question I had was, do you think that I didn't know about the Supreme Court hearing the case on EPA greenhouse gas regulations. That was new to me, and I'm wondering if that's going to impact the EPA's. They're supposed to give, for existing coal-fired power plants greenhouse gas limits or on existing plants it's supposed to be in the spring sometime. Are they going to still go forward with that regardless of the impending kind of court case and then rescind them if it gets rejected, I guess? That's
Well-
exactly what you're talking about, right?
I mean, yeah, and if I was their counsel, I mean, I would not signal to any of the members of the Supreme Court or folks on the opposite side that I thought that there was any merit to the case by
Right.
going back
Delaying.
on the program.
So you just go forward, so they're
You
just
just
gonna
go-
go forward.
And it hasn't, it's not like it's been, the Supreme Court by taking cert doesn't enjoin any forward motion in the regulatory.
Right.
So,
But if it were to, if the case were found or I don't know what your legal terms are, but if they rejected
It
the
would be
greenhouse gas,
unlawful.
it would be unlawful, so the
It's not a
EPA.
constitutional issue, it's a statutory issue.
Right, okay, right, yeah. So they would just have to rescind whatever rules they put forward.
And I think unless they can find some clever way to get around the PSD language, I don't think they can. Congress is gonna have to amend the statute. And
Right.
they can go with the tailpipe side, and, California can take the lead in its, cap on stationary sources, and states can follow that. But at the national level, no.
Right.
And you didn't hear about this because environmental groups tried to play up the fact that the Supreme Court didn't take cert on the scientific credibility of the endangerment finding and the challenges to the tailpipe rule and all the other challenges that were sort of proved in these companion cases. They wanted to play that up as a positive and sort of play down, because I suppose they suspect that this case won't be successful and they will stand. They really played that part of it down.
Right.
But it is significant, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah.
If you go all the way to the back, to the beginning of the talk, you talked about the EPA rules on blending the gasoline. And the thing I don't understand is precisely there's a word you use which is key, which is the EPA rules have to be volumetric. And just from a technical point of view, the dumbest thing you could possibly do is have a rule based on volumetric analysis. I mean, why in the world do you have to do that? Because you can't predict the use, how much gasoline is going to be used. So the reason that the suit was won, that they lost, EPA lost, was precisely because it absolutely didn't make any sense. So why would they possibly continue to do this? I don't understand. Why don't they have a percentage? As opposed to volumetric?
They meaning Congress.
Well,
Continue, I
the
mean,
people that put the law in place.
yeah, the renewable fuel standard, I think.
It's hard to hear back here. I didn't hear
Oh,
what
sorry.
the statement was. Could you repeat?
So,
please?
yeah, so the way that the ethanol standard right now is implemented is that it's volumetrically, that there's a requirement for the blenders to put a certain amount of the volume of ethanol into gasoline. And the problem is that if consumption is at a level at where when you want to reach, say, 10%, that simply isn't enough gasoline around to
Right.
blend that in. These people are stuck, pay a penalty for absolutely no good reason. So, there's.
So, two comments on that. The first being, I think it's by policy specialists, I think universally recognized that a low carbon fuel standard would be the better way to go. But the renewable fuel standard is a product of compromise and sort of a politics and gift to agriculture. So that said, it's the best thing we have at the federal level, and if we let that go, then what else could we ever get? Probably nothing. There is a precedent, though, for statutes like this. For example, in the Clean Air Act, when we had in the 1970s the sort of lead reduction strategy, and it was very technology forcing, and we had the same groups of folks saying it'll never happen, it's impossible, this is a bad statute, and indeed, then it happened. The problem with the statute and the renewable fuel standard is that EPA can always adjust the mandates down. So, as we see for 2014, if EPA adjusts it way down, how will that ever send a signal to folks in the industry that have to meet these mandates that they ever will have to?
I think the other complicating factor with that, and this is a poor policy in my opinion from the beginning, is that it's a technology forcing for a technology that isn't commercially proven, right? Cellulosic ethanol, there's not one functional commercial scale facility in the world that makes money. So you're trying to force an industry into something that they don't have. You know, corn ethanol is one thing. You know, they've shown that to be viable, but they're expecting all this huge surge from cellulosic fuels, and we're still not there. So, you know, that's
So
kind of
it's not forcing enough.
it's not, yeah, it's ill-conceived. You can't really force it if we don't
Force
have.
them to sue.
Yeah, force them to sue. So I think it was just ill-conceived from the beginning, but now they're stuck, right? We've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
I guess a question for all panelists. Do you think that uncertainty at the federal level will be a given for the next 5 to 10 years, and we'll just be sort of muddling through, or do you see anything really changing?
I think, if you talk to people in the industry, the first thing that you hear is, it has to do with the issue of uncertainty. And if you're in business, if you have large capital investments, when you talk about energy, it's always large capital investments. You're going to be hesitant to do it. That's our biggest problem. So people say we don't have an energy policy. I think really, I don't think that's true. I think what we don't have is a written, explicit energy policy. We have an implicit energy policy. An implicit energy policy is, this is what we do. You can read off what our energy policy is by just watching this. And the problem is because it's not, it hasn't been thought through. It's basically action. And you need 51 independent players. There's 56 plus the feds. What you have is a huge amount of regulatory concerns, regulatory uncertainties, and if you look at DC, I think you said, what are the odds of that changing? Not anytime soon. It's sad.
Does that allow for experimentation though, the local bodies, and is there any promise?
So here's the saddest part. I think the expectations have been done by others. One of the very telling things that's happening is that there are some energy companies that are basically going abroad. They've had enough with regulatory uncertainty in the States, and they want to do it abroad. For example, Bill Gates' company, a company called TerraPower, is looking at new designs of nuclear reactors. They are going to be built in Asia. Not going to be built here.
So I just have the last kind of comment, and it seems that, you know, I get incredibly frustrated when I think about energy policy in the U.S. because when we look about decreasing greenhouse gas regulations, the reality is, you know, technology and invention is obviously extremely important, but for this exact problem, we know we have all the solutions. We have all the faculties. We have solar panels. They're cheap enough if we have the proper economics set up. And the proper economics have to incorporate some of these penalties, like externalities due to greenhouse gas regulation. So in my vision, I don't think there's anything that we need on the technology side to happen in the next 10 years to reduce our carbon footprint. It's simply political will, which therefore brings the question, so why don't we have the political will? And to me, it's very simple. There are people in Congress that don't, you know, that don't fully understand the problem. So, I mean, do you you know, so this goes back to.
The exact same thing's true with water, clean water. We know what to do to reduce non-point source.
I don't disagree with that in principle one knows what to do. I think what I disagree with is the statement that the reason that we have progress is because people don't understand. I think one thing that if you look back at history, the United States has had a very complicated attitude to the general issue of industrial policy, of which environmental and energy policies are part of. And when there are times where there is general agreement among all the players of what to do, then all of a sudden the United States does have an industrial policy and things that can work. Think, for example, the railroad building in the 1800s was a good example, or the highway building under Eisenhower in the early 1950s. Where there is a problem is when you have contending interests. When you have contending interests, the United States, what happens here is things just come to a dead stop. And I think that's what we have here. For example, pricing carbon, cap and trade.
Right.
Okay. Well, guess what? The senators and representatives from Kentucky will never, ever, ever, ever agree to cap and trade. And there's a good reason for it. That they depend on coal. Whereas senators from Illinois will be happy to do that because we're mostly nuclear. So how to adjudicate those differences of opinions is a very difficult story. And I don't think we have a magic, we don't have a really answer.
So that's the courts in Washington. So
The
what
court, that's why, yes,
What
yes, the
has,
suits, yeah, we use the courts to settle these things.
what can you tell us about the appointees that Obama has named to the district courts? Amendment, is there a shift in that,
Yeah,
like the Fourth Circuit?
Yeah, I think that people see Obama's nominees as a bit more conservative, a bit more pragmatic, much less sort of the ideologues, Kagan and Sotomayor don't have reputations as being, sort of far left judges, but I think it
They're not
reflects,
Brandon.
it reflects, I think, the fact that they have to get through Congress and look at what Congress is doing, so.
That's the same thing at the district level. Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean, they fight about the district court as much as they fight about the Supreme Court, because eventually those judges might make their way to this court.
I don't want to keep people away from lunch, so I want to thank again our panelists for a great discussion today.
Thank you.